Hello everyone, it is Renee, aka A Vicious Vixen, and Happy New Year, and welcome to my first video of 2023. So we're just gonna go ahead and jump right into it, and I hope you enjoy. So after some skin prep, I am going in with the E.L.F brow lift to lay down my brows. I use the spatula end and go backwards through my brows first to push the product under the hairs. Then I come back through with the spoolie end, then I brush them into place. Once I brush them into place and I'm happy with where they are, I go back in with the spoolie and a little bit more product to lay them down. And after they're dry and no longer shiny, I'm going to go ahead and fill them in with some black eyeshadow. This happens to be Sugarpill's Bulletproof, but any basic black eyeshadow would work, in all honesty. I am going to try and get them as symmetrical as I can, but I'm also going to clean up with some concealer and primer. I'm using the Urban Decay eyeshadow primer potion in Eden. I'm going to apply the primer and then spread it out with a brush, and then I'll use my finger to tap out the product a bit more. The warmth from my finger is going to help with spreading it around. Now I'm going to take these two concealers from LA Girl. The first shade is Fawn, and that one is closer to my skin tone. I'm using that one to clean up beneath and above my brows, and I'm just using a small concealer brush to apply that. Once I'm happy with that, I'm taking a small damp beauty sponge and I'm just blotting the concealer down into the primer. This is just going to get rid of that line of demarcation and make sure everything blends better when I start adding the eyeshadows. The second shade that I'm applying is in the shade Fairest, and I'm just focusing that right on my brow bone on the outer third of my brow. While I am going to blend it out with the same damp beauty sponge, I still want it to be pretty intense, so I'm not going to sheer it out too much, and I'm going to try and keep it centralized in that one area. For the eyeshadows, the first shade I'm taking is Hook Up, which is from the Morphe Hit the Lights palette. I am taking it on a fluffy brush and blending it all throughout my transition area, stopping just like a millimeter before I get to the brows. And once that is blended all the way throughout, I am going to take the shade Deep Roast, which is from Coastal Scents, a company that is unfortunately out of business. And I'm using a pencil brush to take that slightly above my crease because I do have hooded eyes, and I'm going to pull that all throughout that area, checking periodically just to make sure you can actually see the color. And then I'm going to go in with a small fluffy blending brush just so that I can start to marry those two colors together. And then I'm going to go in with a clean fluffy brush, a larger one, just to make sure everything does look like it's supposed to be there together and there's no harsh lines. I am going to take some micellar water on a Q-tip and clean off the first 2/3 of my eyelid. This is just going to give me a clean base to apply all the glitter adhesive and glitter and shadow, and it is also going to help me map out the area since, again, I do have hooded eyes, and I'm using this moment to overdraw above my crease just to make sure everything looks as it should. I'm going to go in with the NYX glitter glue using a silicone applicator brush to spread that around. And while that gets a little bit tacky, I'm going to fill in the outer third with both of those brown shades just to make everything blend better before I go in with the Colourpop Super Shock Shadow in Here We Go Again. I'm going to apply that with my finger, and then I'm going to use another silicone brush to help me get really close to the edges of where I drew everything in, so that way the shape is very crisp. After repeating that on the other side, it is now time to add the glitter. I use the Glam Goth Beauty Diamond Primer to adhere them, and I use 3 different glitters. The first glitter I applied all over the golden area, and that is the Glam Goth Beauty Glitter in Divine. The second 2 glitters I mixed together. Those are Mydas Cosmetics Glitter in Champagne Toast and Glam Goth Beauty's Glitter Diamond in Aphrodite. For that one, I only applied the adhesive in specific areas on my eye and dotted the glitter into it just to add some dimension without completely blending all of them together. For the outer corner, I went back in with the shadows, adding Bulletproof to that just to darken up the outer area, and this in contrast would make the golden area stand out even more. We are going to take a break and go to the base. I am using the Milk Hydrogrip primer and applying that on my face as well as a bit down my neck because we are going to apply some foundation down there. My foundation, speaking of, is going to be the Maybelline FitMe Matte and Poreless in the shade 340 Cappuccino. I am dotting that on my face with my brush and then blending that in. And then I'm going to take that down my neck as well. I didn't pay attention to my ears since my wig is very long and it's going to be covering it. So my ears didn't matter in this case. But anywhere else, just make sure you blend that out. I'm using the same 2 concealers from earlier, the LA Girl Pro Concealer in Fawn and Fairest. And using Fawn, I'm going to highlight my usual places. So under eye, brow bone, forehead, bridge of the nose, my chin, cheekbones. And I'm going to use a damp beauty sponge to blend those out. And this is going to be the somewhat natural layer as far as highlighting, because the second shade I'm going to go in, which is Fairest, that is going to be how I emphasize certain points of my face even more. So for the very inner and outer corner of my eye, the very center of my nose bridge, the tip of my nose, the tip of my chin, I'm going to apply Fairest there, and I'm going to blend those out, but keep as much of the intensity as possible. So I'm not going to sheer them out as much because I do want a super bright, almost supernatural highlight, because again, this is Greed. For my bronzer, I'm using the E.L.F. Putty Bronzer in Sunkissed, and I'm applying that on my cheekbone rather than in the hollow, because this is going to make my face appear more angular and longer, which I have reasons for that I will explain at a later time. But I'm also going to apply my blush in the same fashion. It's the E.L.F. Putty Blush in Caribbean, and I'm avoiding the apple of my cheeks, or at the very least not putting most of the color there, again because I want my face to look more angular rather than round. After the creams, I'm going to go in with the E.L.F. Stay All Day Blue Light Micro Setting Mist, and I am going to spray that all over my face and chest before I go in with 2 powders, the NYX HD Studio Photogenic Setting Powder and the Maybelline Fit Me Loose Finishing Powder in Medium Deep. The NYX powder I am focusing on my under eye, and then the Maybelline is going to go all over my face, neck, and chest. And both of these powders I mixed into the glitter mixture of the Mydas Cosmetics glitter and the Glam Goth glitter, because this is Greed, and Greed definitely in their quote-unquote human form would have glittery skin, because you have to be that extra, obviously. I am going to pat a layer of that with a beauty sponge all over my face, neck, and chest, and I'm going to let it sit for a few seconds before I dust away the excess. And then I sprayed the mist all over once again just to lock everything in before going in with a second layer, because again, we have to be extra as greed. I used the eyeshadow Chocolatier from Coastal Scents to bring back my contour, and then I went back onto the eyes. I'm repeating the colors used on the upper lid on the lower lash line, starting with Hook Up on a fluffy brush, and then I'm going to move into Deep Roast on a pencil brush, keeping that closer to the waterline and making sure to connect the color at the outer corner. And I'm going to use a black jumbo eye pencil from LA Colors, and that is going to be run along the lower lash line as well as a little bit in the waterline. And I'm going to set that with the eyeshadow Bulletproof. I'm also going to drag it out at the outer corner just a little bit to help elongate the eyes, so that way it'll also help with making my face look more angular. I smoked out the lower lash line using what was left on the brush, and then I lined closely to the base of the top eyelashes, as well as elongated the outer corner just a bit more, again to make my face look more angular. To highlight everything, starting with my brows, I use the Super Shock shadow in Here We Go Again. I use the silicone applicator to apply it, and in certain areas I use my finger to blend it out just to make sure everything blended seamlessly, and that while it was bright, it also didn't look like I just dotted it on my face and didn't do anything to actually make everything cohesive. I am applying the Glam Goth Beauty Killer Glam eyelashes in Temptress. I already coated my top lashes in the Milani Mascara in black before applying these using my Duo Lash Glue. And I'm also going to apply that mascara to my bottom lashes before moving on to the next step. I am going in now with the Graftobian powdered metals in gold and silver and the Mayron mixing liquid so that I can make 2 metallic liners. I had absolutely no real rhyme or reason to this. I just wanted to add to the extraness that I thought of when I thought of greed, and some metallic filigree-esque swirls and whatnot just seemed to add to that in my mind, basically. I used a nail art brush and just drew whatever shapes and lines came to mind. And for the final part of at least the metallic liner, I mixed a watery version of the paints in a dropper bottle, and I dripped some of those drops right beneath the eye so it looks as if greed had gold and silver tears, which worked out perfectly for the tragic backstory that I have in mind for this incarnation. Because I knew I wanted even more shine, I applied Rhinestones. I didn't have my clear lash adhesive, I couldn't find it, so I just had to use the black. I focused a certain amount of them in the inner corner to act as my inner corner highlight, and the rest I just spread out amongst the design. So some of them were in corners of the filigree parts, some of them were in the tiers, others looked as if they were like piercings that I added, and I was just super happy with how it came out. So for the lips, I wiped off my chapstick and I'm going to go in with the NYX Slide On Lip Liner in Red Tape and the Revolution Makeup Lip Topper in Luxurious. I am applying the lip liner in the center of my lips and somewhat avoiding the outer part because I don't want to actually fill in my lips with color. I just want to add a hint of it. I'm going to blot it out using my finger, just shearing out the color a bit, and then I'm going to go over everything with the lip topper, which has a golden shimmery reflect in it, And after adding my wig and a few final touches, we are done. Thank you so much for sticking around to the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I enjoyed making it. And I also hope that I will see you come back for the next one. I will be showing you how I created all the special effects pieces for Greed, as well as the second version of Greed, the demonic version. I'm super excited to share that with everyone, and I hope you'll stick around and watch it. Please do. Take care, make good choices, and I'll see y'all later.